be around, be supportive, and demonstrate to your loved one that, this is something that you're endorsing.
You're listening to the Care Podcast, brought to you by Unique Senior Care. We're here to share honest and practical conversations about how to navigate your care journey. We're joined today by one of our co-founders and directors, Phil Mondrell. Phil has personal experience of arranging care for his mum who was living with dementia, so he understands some of the unique challenges that can be part of that journey. Today we're going to be thinking about why choosing care can feel so hard, but also why that's normal. Thank you, Phil, for joining us. So can you tell us a bit about your own journey into arranging care?
Yes, I can actually. We're going back a few years now, so it's probably around about 2006, 2007 when I was dealing with, the family challenge of my mum, who was diagnosed with vascular dementia, and the emotion and the decision process that we had to go through to get care in place, which was quite traumatic because I suspect that moving someone into a care setting, whether it be care at home or residential care, is probably one of the hardest decisions as someone's offspring that you ever have to take, and naturally coming with that decision-making process is feelings of guilt, and letting people down, which clearly isn't the case, but those are the kind of things that go through your mind.
So did it feel as if you wanted to be there giving your mum that practical support, and it felt hard to actually trust somebody else to do that?
Yeah, that is exactly how it felt. At the time I was living in France, in Paris, with my young family and my wife, and mum was still living in our family home where I grew up, just outside of Bath in the West Country, and I felt as though we were too far away. My brother and my sister were also remote. They were living in different parts of the UK, and so mum was there on her own, and I guess part of the reason for my return back to the UK from working in France was because I felt as though I was too far away. But the process of putting care in place was a traumatic one, probably because it was something that we had to encourage her to do, to accept, but also get our own heads around it. The fact that the ageing process had taken us to a point where we needed to get outside help in, and that was principally because she was taking a cocktail of medications, which, when you've got even early stage dementia, can be quite confusing for people, and that wasn't helping the situation or her health. But we needed to do something because, as any family does, you have your own lives to lead, and that's, I think, where the guilt comes in, because being remote and also feeling responsible brings those kind of challenges. And the journey for me wasn't a particularly straightforward one either, because I didn't even realise at the time that you could get care at home. My thoughts were at the time, I remember being that the only people that would visit the home were doctors and district nurses, and it was only when we explored the option of residential care, which was way too early for her. It was that process that alerted us to the fact that you could get care at home, and that's what started the journey. And I suppose the feeling of relief that there was a solution was what made us feel better about it. Mum wasn't an easy person to convince, but once we got things in place, although the service that we had was a little bit patchy, the help at home that it gave her was useful, but also gave us the reassurance that she was getting support to help her with those things like her medication and just help with her daily routines. But as I say, not an easy thing to do. Probably one of the hardest decisions I've had to make in my life, I guess. And then as the journey progressed, we kept her at home for as long as we practically could. But with a condition like dementia, sometimes you have to think about the next stage. And for us, that next stage was actually residential care or a dementia care home. Completely against my best wishes, that was where she spent the last years of her life. But again, it was not a nice decision to have to make.
And when you first got the care at home for your mum, it sounds like she was quite resistant to having carers visit. How did you navigate that challenge?
With difficulty, because I suppose that's part of the reason why I came into the industry. The care that we got was a bit disjointed. There was little in terms of consistency. They sent different people at different times, and in some instances, people that didn't know Mum and she didn't know, and that itself brought challenges because she was quite a forthright person. She would speak her mind, and sometimes they'd turn up to help for an hour, and they'd be gone within 10 or 15 minutes because she had a strength of character that meant that she would tell people what she thought and tell them to leave, which again wasn't helpful given the condition and the circumstances. So I think when you think about care, it's really important to find the right solution. And the right solution is not necessarily the easiest thing to find at the first step, because that lack of consistency, not sticking to the times that are agreed, and people that turn up that don't actually know what they're doing until they turn up, I think adds another complexity, which is that the anxieties around care are principally driven by wanting the same person at each visit, which clearly isn't practical, but 15 different people for 15 different occasions isn't the best for someone. We make sure that people get regular, consistent staff who know their clients and have a good briefing about what they're expected to do during each visit, and really are focused on the individual and ensuring that they get the support, the service, and the kindness and compassion that they need with this kind of service.
So potentially, if your mum had that more consistent care, it could have made quite a big difference in terms of her accepting the carers, letting them help her, and building those relationships. Yeah,
I mean, she was a friendly person and someone that would like to meet with people and chat with people, but with strangers, which is what we had at the time, it did present us with problems, and it gave us that that worry that we had at the start wasn't completely eased by what she was getting. Yes, I mean, what people want to do is stay at home, and hourly care is where you start, and potentially live-in care is an option for people to stay at home right until their dying moments, and I think that's what everyone wants. Residential care has its place, but it's not the best outcome for people in my opinion and from my experience. So yes, it's a tough thing to have to negotiate and manage.
Yeah. And if you could offer one kind of key piece of advice to someone in that position, with that emotional weight of thinking, what do I do and when do I do it? What would that piece of advice be?
What I would say is, although you feel guilty, there is no guilt attached with what you're trying to set out to achieve and set out to do. What's really important is that you navigate the journey carefully, understand what you're stepping into, and wherever possible, try and start with a small amount of support at the start so that everyone gets used to it, the person that's being cared for, as well as the family members that surround that person, and also in the initial stages, be there when the care starts, so that you can see and you're actually demonstrating to your loved one that you're approving of the situation, and it makes the journey that much easier. So as I say, don't feel guilty, but make sure that you take it as a step-by-step approach, and don't run away as soon as the care service starts. Be around, be supportive, and demonstrate to your loved one that this is something that you're endorsing. I think that's my advice, and take it step by step. See how things go, move things forward in a controlled and managed way, so that it works for everyone.
Thank you, Phil, for sharing your personal story, but also the experience that you have built up over many years of working with families in this position. And thank you to everyone for watching. We hope that you found this episode useful and that it's given you some reassurance and practical guidance on your care journey. I'm Jo Cleary, this is the Care Podcast, and we hope that you join us for the next episode.